This episode brought to you by Sponch, the new cheese sponge. It's cheddar for you.
Welcome to the Alpha Nerds Podcast, a podcast of dark and troubling things. I'm Bart.
And I'm Pete.
And every week we talk about a TV, movie, what have you, that begins with a letter of the alphabet, and this week's is E!
E!
Electrons.
Evil elephants eating eloping ents.
Dang, I was gonna say, like, ergonomics, but okay, yeah, you got it. Alright, so every week we do a few honorable mentions before we get to the topic that we picked for this week. I'll kick it off this week. My first one is Elephant, which is a movie by Gus Van Sant. Have you ever seen that one?
I may have. It rings a bell, but I don't think I've seen it.
It's basically like a retelling of the Columbine story, but I don't know. It looks really good. I haven't seen it yet. I want to.
Ah, right on.
And it's the same dude who directed Good Will Hunting. Yeah, Gus Van Sant's really good.
Cool.
El Shaddai Ascension of the Metatron. Did you ever play that game?
No.
Okay, so basically it's God of War, but without the QuickTime events, and that's everything that it needed to sell me on that game.
Yeah, I kind of want to play that now. What system's it on?
PS3.
Boo!
It came out a long time ago. But, so, how the game is that you play through the, like, biblical Book of Enoch.
Huh.
Yeah, you play as the prophet Enoch, which we can talk about because it's C, so I can go deeper into it. You play as him, and Enoch was the one who did, like, a bunch of, like, the weird prophecies, and one of the ones was, like, giants and the Nephilim, stuff like that. Like, women who bred with angels.
Huh.
Except the Nephilim aren't giants. They're, like, big, spongy, like, cute Japanese characters. And Lucifer hangs out with you. He can stop time, wears a suit, has an umbrella, and a cell phone.
That sounds about right.
Dude, is like that's one thing I love about like Japanese animation is that they take Christian mythology and they're just like, so this is just characters, right? Like it's what we do with Greek mythology.
That's awesome. Like
there's no level of like respect or trying to keep it true to the story. No, it's just like, okay, I can mess with this. I can see what I can do. It is a weird game. Ernest Scared Stupid.
Did see that one when I was very little.
Oh, I love that one when I was a kid. Like, I was going to do it, but I can't find it on... It's like $3 on Amazon. I'm like, I'm not going to spend $3. All right, that's only 3. We still have Elvis.
Nice.
King of Rock and Roll. And Ernie Klein.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. So, all right, just going to say right now, excited, but at the same time nervous about Ready Player One movie.
I think it'll be great. Just keep in mind that it can't, wouldn't, and shouldn't be exactly the same as the book. If you keep that in mind, if you just take it as it is, then it'll be it. Because, like, movie adaptations of book are basically fanfics of the book. Sometimes they're better. Most of the time they're not.
Yeah, fair enough. Plus, no matter how bad it might be, I've always got the audiobook, so I can always have Will Wheaton read it to me. So, yay!
Just Wesley Crusher. But we can't talk about Wesley Crusher because this isn't C or W, it's E. What do you have for us, Pete?
I've got Edward Scissorhands, probably one of the first Tim Burton movies I ever watched.
That was the last time Vincent Price was on film, wasn't it?
It was one of the last times, I think. But
he's
old. He was so perfect for a Tim Burton film.
Yeah.
Let's see. I've got Eugene Merman, stand-up comedian who also voices Gene on Bob's Burgers.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, like, I have no idea what you're talking about. That I'm like, oh, yeah. He did, did you ever see the stand-up special that Demetri Martin had on Comedy Central?
Yes.
He was there.
Really?
That's like, awesome. when he has all the people come out at the end to show, like, the fantasy realm of, like, the inside of his head.
Oh.
He plays, like, the big dude dressed up as the fairy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, he's actually got a stand-up routine on Netflix, and it's actually hilarious. So, if you're a fan of, like, sort of, well, he doesn't really do, like, one-liner stuff like Demetri Martin or Mitch Hedberg did, but, his stuff is, like, more story-based, and then, like, he actually interacts with the audience a little bit. and it's actually really funny. I enjoyed it. Anyway, let's see. Eclipse, graphic novel series based on a sort of apocalyptic Earth where sunlight is so strong it burns people to death instantly.
Hardcore.
Yeah. So, people can only go out at night, and I'm sitting here like, that's fine with me. I already hate the sun.
You're like, we're on an even playing field.
Exactly. Number 4, I have Elseworlds, the DC Comics sort of variant where they just pose what-if questions, and then they make an entire comic based on that scenario.
Their questions are, like, always more, like, deep than the, like, what-if series that Marvel did. Because Marvel's questions are always like, what if Captain America picked up Thor's hammer? And then they just ran with it. It was, like, stupid ones. Elseworlds is like, how do we change this character?
Well, they do stuff that's almost exactly like one character picking up a weapon of another character. Like, they had Darkest Night, where Batman got a Green Lantern ring.
My favorite, Elseworlds.
Yeah.
Even though it's not that good, still my favorite.
They also have 2 Elseworlds that I know of that focus on Superman landing in another country. One was Russia, where we got Red Sun.
Really good.
And another where he landed in England. And that book is called True Brit.
That's right. I haven't seen that one yet, but I remember you telling me about it.
That one's actually really fun. Like, it's got kind of a... It's they do like they do like a 3 great tasks sort of thing, but because it's England, they're ridiculous. Like, first great task is getting the trains to run on time. So he's like, well, you see, if the trains leave at these posted times, they'll arrive at these posted times. That's how we get them to run on time. And then everybody's all like, oh my god, you did it, you're a genius. And another is like he has to reduce the wait time to see a doctor, so he ends up performing knee surgery on everybody that requires knee surgery all at once in like a big indoor just sort of like an indoor gym sort of place.
Yeah, you're thinking of gosh, now I can't think of it. Anyways, don't matter.
So yeah. Number 5, I have Excalibur.
The movie from back in the day or the comic book?
Movie from back in the day.
That's a really good movie.
Yeah. Really
super
enjoyed that
like
one.
They had the same like polishing team that they had for the Cylons in Battlestar Galactica, because their armor was just blinged out beyond all recognition.
Yes it was. Wow.
Yeah,
it's kind of blinding.
Yeah, but really good movie. Okay, one thing when I read, because we read the book in English class, right?
Yeah.
And there's a line where the smoke from the final battle clears and you see Mordred leaning on his sword.
Yeah.
And then Arthur comes up and gives him the old what for.
Yeah.
Step up a little. So when I read that, I wasn't thinking, because in the movie they have him like standing up, like using his sword like a cane, like, look at all the people I've killed, Arthur. Oh, so evil. And I never saw that. Like, when I read it, I was like, he's leaning on a sword, like he's on his knee, using his sword to, like, prop himself up, like...
Yeah, right.
Okay.
That sounds like, what's happening. Because I always thought, like, he's just, like, propping himself up with his sword.
Which makes Arthur just attacking a very wounded man just that much more brutal.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I liked that imagery a little bit better, because it's like, sworn enemy, like, are you going to show him mercy, or are you going to, like, finish him off?
Yeah, I like that better.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Excalibur's a great movie. Directed by... I don't know who's directed by. I don't care.
Yeah, yeah, I guess that kind of, like, harkens to the sort of, like, back in the day when they would show a movie to, like, focus groups and things like that, and I guess they don't want somebody who's supposed to be a hero doing something that would be, like... kind of shitty. Same reason they remastered Star Wars so that Greedo shot first.
Yeah, but that's like the whole point of King Arthur. He's the first modern hero. Before you had the like Greek heroes who were just like paragons of like they were mighty and unstoppable, and King Arthur was very stoppable.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. But yeah. So I think that's pretty good. All right, kick us off, Pete.
All right, so my subject this week is The Evil Dead. And
amazing movie.
This was probably one of the first horror movies I was exposed to. I was very young, way too young in retrospect, and that kind of like it provides some explanation as to why I'm the way I am now.
Insert laugh here. Got it. But yeah, Evil Dead's an amazing movie. So go for it. When was it made?
Well, it depends on if you're talking about the remake or the original. The original Evil Dead was made in 1981, starring Bruce Campbell, and that was my first exposure to Bruce Campbell as an actor as well.
Nice.
And it's about as simple as a plot gets. Some friends go to a cabin, and there's some creepiness on the way to the cabin. They have to cross an old bridge that's very, very breakable. And then, it just does not bode well for anyone involved. What I really enjoyed about the beginning of this movie is that they showed from the perspective of like this evil ethereal force just kind of floating over the floor of the woods, just kind of gliding its way towards the cabin, just bringing this doom to these people. And it also shows, like, a staple in horror movies where if there's a bad idea to be had, someone will have it.
Yes.
So they find a creepy book made of human skin for the cover and inked with human blood.
That is also a very small face that's on the cover.
It's a very small face on the cover.
Because you would have to have like a decent size like encyclopedia. No, even bigger than an encyclopedia. You'd have a decent sized book to make like put my face on a cover.
Well, concerning that it looks like it was kind of tanned, there's some shrinkage that happens. So
fair enough.
Yeah. Sort of the whole like shrunken head process thing.
Yeah, that works.
Anyway, so it's written in a language that none of them can read, and that's like the one lucky break they have. However, they find an audio tape of a professor who was studying this stuff, and he basically like disappeared. Nobody's ever seen him again. Ooh, spooky. Now, he's discussing this book and talking about how, like, oh, this is a book of ritual rites and funerary customs and everything of these ancient people. And, it contains instructions on how to summon demons and all this stuff. And what does a professor of this mythology do? He reads aloud the spell that gets everything sent to crap, just to be recorded for all time, so that while they're playing it and he's reading the spell, you just see the earth shaking outside the cabin with this red hell light coming out, just like roar. And that's when we know that the characters are well and truly fucked. But It's a little more tragic because they didn't bring it upon themselves, even though they played the tape or whatever. But there was no warning on the tape that said don't play this tape. So
yeah, it's like the guy who made it was killed before he could actually put the warning on it.
Yeah, basically.
It's like, good job there, Professor.
Now they also find like this mystical looking knife that has like skulls and rib cages sort of sculpted to the hilt of it, or the handle. And it's all very like it's all very foreboding looking. Now, I actually kind of think that the remake did a better job setting the scene. Because first they add a little bit of lore to it, where it takes place like about 100 years ago, and there's a dad who basically has to put to death his daughter, who is basically possessed by a demon. And I'm talking full, like, exorcist, like, demon.
Oh, dang.
They've got her tied to a stake, and, everybody in attendance is like, the only way to save your daughter's soul is to set him on fire. And, he's sitting there like, but I gotta burn my daughter, though. So he sets his daughter on fire, and, then the demon's voice starts coming out like, I'll be back, all this stuff. And then, we cut to present day, some friends going to a cabin, except this time, in the remake, Ash, the main character in the original, is now being played by a girl, which is awesome.
Yeah, and that's Lily Collins. That's Phil Collins' daughter.
And honestly, the acting in the remake is, I want to say it's a little better than the acting in the original, but that's just kind of like a personal thing for me. Some people could say it the other way. Anyway.
Yeah, well, the original was like a bunch of friends went to a cabin in the woods, and then the remake is big budget Hollywood production.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But the remake also managed to stay true to the original in a lot of cinematic choices. Like, they still have, the gliding over the forest floor of, like, this unseen ethereal evil force.
Oh.
And, yeah, they have a lot of, like, really similar things to, like, they're clearly sort of honoring the predecessor, but, also trying to take it in their own way, which I believe is exactly what a remake ought to do, not be like a shot-for-shot remake like they tried to do with Alfred Hitchcock, with Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, but, actually try and do something just a little bit different, but acknowledging the origins. Anyway.
You know who directed that remake of Psycho?
Who did?
Gus Van Sant, the same guy who did Elephant.
Huh.
Yeah, right?
There you go. Bring it around. Anyway.
Go.
So,
no, like, leave the room. Like, go. Like, that was terrible.
All right.
So, hi, I'll be taking over the podcast now. So, Evil Dead's really good.
I was just tapping the microphone. Anyway. So, yeah. This movie, like, there are lots of different flavors of horror movies. There's gore horror, there's body horror, there's suspense horror, there's psychological horror. This, I want to say, definitely falls into the body horror category, because there's a lot of body mutilation happening. Not exactly the same caliber as Hellraiser, where, people's skin gets peeled off.
Whoa.
But, there's one scene where somebody gets their ankle stabbed with a pencil. And, Bart, how many seconds do you think we need to see, like, somebody's ankle get stabbed with a pencil?
I don't know, like 5?
This thing goes on for, like, 10. Just wrenching the pencil in their ankle.
Oh, gosh.
As blood just kind of oozes out. And it's just... And also screaming. Just lots of screaming.
Yeah, this is good old-fashioned American horror films.
Yeah, this is the kind of horror movie that shows something gruesome, and it just dares you to keep looking at it.
Yeah.
Now, so one character gets possessed by this demon, and it just immediately takes off right away. And, like, there's no, like, oh, I think he might be possessed, and blah, blah, blah. No. They start talking in a demonic voice, they start attacking people, and then they throw her in a cellar. And then they chain up the door, but it can still, like, open up by about, like, I want to say 2 or 3 inches. Like, you can still see her in there, and, her skin is turned all gray and pale, and her hair's gone all witchy.
She's got the white, like, pupils in her eyes and, like, drooling blood out of the side of her mouth. Oh, yeah.
Think if somebody tried to make Game of Thrones White Walker makeup back in the 70s. You won't be far off.
Yeah.
Anyway, so turns out that anytime a wound is inflicted by somebody who's possessed like this, they'll eventually get possessed themselves.
Oh, I didn't know that's how it worked.
Yeah, so lady that got her ankle stabbed with a pencil, oop, she's gonna die. Guy got bit on his arm, I think. There's 3 women and 2 dudes. Let's see. After the second woman gets, like, possessed, and she starts going all feral and everything, the dude who's not Ash, whose name I can't really remember, like, these are all, like, very bland characters. Takes
There's
an axe.
Ash.
There's Ash, and then there's Ash's friends.
Yep.
And so, once the second woman gets possessed, because the first one was Ash's sister, so the second woman gets possessed, and the dude who's not Ash takes an axe and chops her to bits.
Hardcore.
Like, just bits. Like, there's a head there, there's an arm there, and, like, they're still all, like, writhing, like a bug or a lizard tail after it's been cut off or something like that. It's just like... Taking a break from that, I want to talk about other stuff that I think the remake did really well. They showed the one other guy is the one that actually reads from the Book of the Dead. And the Book of the Dead is a lot more well-designed because you can throw more money at it, so
Yeah.
sure. But, like, the Book of the Dead looks really good, but it's also been wrapped in barbed wire. So what does Dummy McDumbface do? Takes a couple of wire cutters and just snaps that and just, like, bends off the barbed wire, which has, like, rusted for years. And then he just, like, starts reading this out. And when the initial possession happens, it happens in the woods, both movies. And basically the tree branches and vines and other nasty things just grab the woman who's kind of out taking a walk, and then she... there's no other way to say it. She gets raped by evil.
Yes.
That's about as far as it goes. It just... they spread her legs and everything. It's gruesome. Grisly. Anyway.
Which is weird, considering, like, where this series goes.
Yeah.
Because, like, Evil Dead 2 was, like, kind of jokey, and then Army of Darkness is Army of Darkness.
Yeah. So, this one was, as far as the series goes, this was the truest horror.
Yeah.
So, the rest kind of, like, it's scary sometimes, and, they have horror elements, but it's more on the comedy side.
Oh, yeah.
Comedy action. So, in the remake, Ash, who is female, is a recovering drug addict. And that's why they go to that cabin, so she can just, go through her withdrawals in peace and detox and everything like that. And all of her friends are there lending support and things like that. And she's going through these melodramatic actions where she takes, like, the rest of her fix, her stash or whatever, just a bunch of white powder in a baggie, and she throws it down a well, and she's like, she's, like, at first she's trying to be all poetic about it, like, bear witness to my vow, and blah, 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 and then she breaks her own character and goes like, fuck it, I'm done forever. And, then everybody's like, alright, let's go inside and watch this person go insane from lack of a chemical that she really liked for a while.
Waka waka.
Yes.
So we have Dead Girl Outside. We have Zombie Woman Under the Stairs. We have Earl who got bit. And we have... what happened to Zombie Woman with the pencil?
Zombie Woman with the pencil... well, she had a pencil wound.
Yeah.
It was the sister who grabbed a pencil while, like, she was able to reach her arm out from the cellar door, and she just, like, grabbed a pencil and just, like, jam, and then twist and grind it. Oh, God. Ugh. Ugh. Anyway. The girl who got the pencil wound, in the original story, she just basically turns into this, like, almost clowny sort of possession, because she just sits there with this giant grin on her face, doing this otherworldly mix of a cackle and a giggle, where she's just sitting there on her ass, just like, and you see that, and you just, every instinct in your brain just shouts, kill it with fire.
Seriously.
So, another thing that I really liked that the remake did was it made purpose for all of these possessions. It said that there need to be 5 deaths, and then this, like, sort of Antichrist figure would arise.
Okay, yeah,
like
that's a better word to do.
Like, they don't say Antichrist, but it's basically like, call it like a super demon.
Yeah.
Because, like, once 5 people die, it'll start raining blood, and then super demon will pull themselves out of the ground and, you know, destroy humanity. So 5 deaths happen in the remake because there's still 5 people, but there's also a dog. And this happened when Hollywood was just coming off of its dead dog boner. It's
Are
a
they
thing.
Still not on it? Are they still not on it? Let's see. I Am Legend, John Wick.
Yeah, good point. Hollywood does love its dead dogs. So, anyway, evil incarnate comes out of the ground. It's raining blood. The scene is actually really well shot because it's basically just black and red. And we see, in the original, Ash doesn't lose his hand. And, you know, we don't get the we don't get the iconic chainsaw either. Like, he picks up the chainsaw once, turns it on, doesn't use it for anything because he's trying to decide whether or not to dismember his girlfriend, who's the cackling, laughing demon possession.
Yeah.
You know, he can't bring himself to do it, so he just sets it down. In the remake, Ash is basically outside, and then I don't know what happens to cause it, but the car that they came in rolls over onto her hand, just like right at the wrist, just brap. She's pinned, and this thing is just crawling towards her because she already used the chainsaw to, like, cut off its feet, so it's just like slogging through the bloody wet ground, grass, mud, all this stuff. It is horrifying to watch. I mean, I imagine that if you were in that situation, I can honestly say I'd be shitting my pants. Like, just, oh,
yeah.
God. So, she has to basically rip herself out of that predicament. She basically just pulls so hard that her hand just, like, comes off. She grabs the chainsaw, and because she can't, like, operate it one-handed, she just jams her stump arm into, like, the handle and, you know, pulls the ripcord with her other hand and just shoves the chainsaw right into, like, King Demon's face and just slices it in half. And then the blood rain stops and everything seems to go back to being peaceful, and it's that whole, like, sigh of relief moment. So, there are some reasons I like the original one better. There are some reasons I like the remake better. But I definitely say they're both worth a watch.
Oh, yeah. And, so, Evil Dead 2, it's basically just a remake of the first one. It's still Ash and 4 friends who go to a, like, cabin in the woods.
Basically, yeah.
Except, like you were saying, like, he couldn't bring himself to use the chainsaw. That's gone.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. They learned their lesson.
Just, like, and he, yeah, and the second one's, like, better because it's, like, it's funnier and then it's, like, wackier.
Yeah.
Like the bit with the hand.
Yes, yes.
So awesome.
So great. So, yeah, that's about all I have to say on the subject.
You're not going to talk about the VHS versions of Evil Dead?
See, I never had the VHS versions.
Nobody did. Dude, okay, so the only, like, they didn't actually have a release for it. So the only things that were floating around were, like, tapes people, like, bootleg tapes people made in the theaters. And it's VHS, it goes bad eventually. So then they, like, released it, like, once in the 80s, and there weren't that many copies. And there was this, like, low period of, like, you couldn't find this movie. It's supposed to be a great movie. Like, they made a second one, they made a third one. But, like, you could not find the original Evil Dead. And then they released it on DVD, and it just went to everyone.
Huh.
That's the one I had when I was a kid.
Huh. Well, there you go.
Yeah. Evil Dead's really good. It was directed by Sam Raimi, who
Yes.
went on to direct Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3. What else does Sam Raimi do?
Let's have a look.
I know the biggest, like, example of the fact that the guy who directed Evil Dead directed Spider-Man 2 is the hospital scene where they're trying to take off Doc Ock's arms and they go insane and just start, like, hacking everybody to pieces.
Yeah,
to the
one
point-
person gets dragged off to, like, a dark corner of the ER. I didn't know ERs had dark corners, but there you go.
They traditionally don't, but they don't usually have, like, giant killer, like, handsaw pieces just sitting on tables. Because there's one lady, it's the, like, shadow thing where you see her screaming and then you see the claw come up with the big, like, saw. You just see, like, go down into her.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, he's produced a lot of horror.
Oh,
Like he's got producer credit on, he's got producer credit on Xena Warrior Princess.
yeah.
Believe it or not.
Well, Bruce Campbell was in that show, so this makes sense.
Yeah. Let's see. There's also the Ash vs. Evil Dead series.
That's still going on.
Let me see what he's actually got as, like, a writer-director credit. So, he's written a few episodes of Xena Warrior Princess, as well as Hercules and Xena, the animated movie. As for directing, yeah, he did Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, Drag Me to Hell, Oz the Great and Powerful, which, honestly, I didn't really care for.
I liked Oz the Great and Powerful. I didn't like I thought the makeup was terrible on the, what's her name? The girl who became the Wicked Witch of the West.
Oh, Mila Kunis?
Yeah, the like, Wicked Witch makeup was terrible.
Really?
Yeah.
It's whatever. Let's see, he also did Darkman.
Yes, Darkman starring Liam Neeson.
Yes. Let's see.
Darkman 2, Darkman Die. Was he on that?
Doesn't look that way, no.
Aww.
He did the short video Iggy Pop Cold Metal.
Iggy Pop strikes me as a very weird human being.
Yeah.
Like, he's a dude who hung out with Bowie in the 80s. Like, you can't just be, like, a normal person and have that, like, tick on your, like, that notch in your bedpost.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, that's, that's basically the most well-known culmination of his work.
Yeah. But yeah, like, Evil Dead's amazing. Sam Raimi's great. Bruce Campbell's just incredible. First time I saw Bruce Campbell was, it was a Western TV show he did called Briscoe County Jr.
Huh.
Where there was this thing called the orb that had, like, these glowy rods in it, and the orb could be used to, like, it was steampunk. Like, the orb could be used to power things, and nobody knows where the orb came from, but he's having to, like, hunt down the people who are trying to steal the orb. It's great.
Huh, that's awesome.
Yeah, like Briscoe County Jr. Worth a watch, but didn't actually, like, end because it didn't have, like, a finite ending. But yeah.
All right. So let's get right into your entry.
Let's ride this horror train all the way to the station that's covered in worms. So Eraserhead was a film by David Lynch. It was released in March 1977. Pete, we don't have time to talk about that. Okay, so it premiered at an LA Film Festival. Like, this is the movie that, if you haven't heard of David Lynch made Twin Peaks, which is out right now. That's probably why a lot of people recognize it. But this is the movie that got him a reputation in Hollywood for just being amazing. So Mel Brooks, it got his attention, and David Lynch was, like, pulled to direct The Elephant Man, starring John Hurt, Anthony Hopkins, about a disfigured man in Victorian England. Very good film. I was actually going to use that for this, but again, I had to buy it. Um, got George Lucas's attention because Lucas wanted him to direct Return of the Jedi, and I want to go back to the universe where that happened because that would be awesome.
Yeah.
He directed Dune, which is a absolutely huge, big budget. They wanted Dune to be the successor to Star Wars. They wanted it to be the big, successful space opera that spawns a couple sequels and you make a bunch of money off of it. And it wasn't that. But this all comes back to Eraserhead. So casting for Eraserhead began in 1971. It took him 6 years to actually make, edit, finish, and put together this absolute surrealist masterpiece. It is, like you were saying, different types of horror. This is body horror mixed with psychological horror.
Yeah, it's a goddamn gift basket full of crazy.
Yeah, okay, this movie came out the month after The Mini Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
Sorry, just that thought gave me whiplash.
Either the month before or the month after Fun with Dick and Jane. So you have, Fun with Dick and Jane, The Mini Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, Eraserhead. So, it's such a weird movie. So the atmosphere, if you haven't seen it, look up the poster. Just look at the poster right now so you can be on the same page as all of us. The poster is the word Eraserhead, dude's head, and he looks like he has the hair that, if you took the dude from House Party and you, puffed it out a bit, it would look like that. It looks like he stuck his finger in a light socket. Just big, bzzz, Bride of Frankenstein. You separated it out a bit.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just big, poofy, head of hair. Why? No reason. Does it resemble an eraser and that's why it's called Eraserhead? No. It's just how his hair is.
Yep.
And the whole thing is just the atmosphere is very dark and industrial and buildings are big, people are small. It's very quiet movie. The soundtrack is all just white noise mixed with clanks, the stuff you'd hear in a factory.
Yeah, pretty much. There's almost zero music.
Yeah.
And that is just so... That's one part that makes this movie so unnerving.
That's the first unnerving thing. So when I first heard Eraserhead, I thought Eraserhead was a Dick Tracy villain.
Right? Like Prune Face.
Flat... You have Prune Face, Flat Top, Eraserhead. Because that's what it sounds like. I'm okay, this is a Dick Tracy knockoff. No. No, it's not.
No. First time I watched this, it was because of you.
Okay, no, we'll get to that. So it has, because we're going to talk about the production thing, going to the actual movie. It has very deep black and whites, a la Twilight Zone. It's such visually, it's absolutely stunning film, and there's references in the rest of his work to this thing, the pattern on the carpet, that weird zigzag pattern. The red curtains on the stage where you see the lady in the radiator dance gets reused in that is the White Room in Twin Peaks. Or the Black Room, I can't remember. Or the White Lodge or the Black Lodge, whatever it was. Doesn't matter. The weird dream space in Twin Peaks, the set design came from this movie because it became just his signature. Another thing that's his signature is the weird mix of wholesome and gritty. So spoilers for Twin Peaks, by the way, even though I've only ever seen the first season. Small town girl gets killed, prom queen, that kind of type, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you find out that she was doing drugs and hanging out with these drug dealers on the edge of town. It's what the heck's really going on in this town? That seedy underbelly of a nice outside, not like Stepford Wives, where the whole town's evil. No, it's just they're actual people. They just live creepy, weird lives. That came from him because he lived in the Pacific Northwest. Well, it was small town America. And then he moved to L.A. L.A. in the 70s.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that's what you get. So, stuff like Twin Peaks has it. Blue Velvet, which is a weird, sexual body horror thing. That was him, too. A little bit of Dune in there. Well, not really Dune, because Dune's somebody else's story. But absolutely, he is a fantastic director with his own signature, and there's a lot of people that can say they have that but don't really have it in spades like David Lynch does.
Right.
The production, there's puppets, there's claymation, there's miniature effects with the lady in the radiator, there's this weird effect with like a milk bath, and I'm not sure how he did it. I'm actually like that one like is so impressive because I don't know how he did it. There's prosthetics because there's a fake head. There's large scale puppets. Like they went all out with the special effects in this film, even though it's like a 90-minute like little creepy horror film.
That shit was only 90 minutes.
Yes,
It felt like an eternity in hell.
that's kind of what it's supposed to be about. But it's just like crazy. So the cover of the thing is just the main character staring at you. Is the cover of the DVD box. And I got this at the same time I got a movie called Forbidden Planet because I heard they were both really good, like old 70s, like 60s films.
Right, the classics.
Right. I watched Forbidden Planet with my wife, and she wouldn't watch Eraserhead with me because it was supposed to be really creepy. So I bring it over to Pete's place. And I want to set the scene for like the audience here. So me and Pete are sitting watching the TV in the like dining table room area that's off to the left, like behind the TV, to where nobody sitting there can see what's on the TV, is Pete's mom and stepdad.
Yeah. So
They'll come in handy later.
they're kind of doing their own thing, and we are just sitting on the couch watching this madness unfold that I could not be prepared for.
I don't think anybody was. See, I read the synopsis. I knew everything that happened, and it was still just such a trip. So, first thing that like happens is Henry, the main character's name is Henry, is going to dinner with his girlfriend's parents.
Yeah.
And it's just, well, the first thing that happens is the man in the center of the earth who's like horribly disfigured and just pulling handles to make things happen. And you see him for about 10 seconds, and then we cut away from him into Henry walking across a city.
David Lynch became very well known as like somebody who just inputs random things that have nothing to do with the rest of the movie just to set a mood.
Yeah, well, that's surrealism. Surrealism is weird because weird's kind of interesting. It's not weird for a purpose. It's just strange.
Yeah.
And this is it. So he goes to his girlfriend's parents' house, and he talks to them. And Pete, how big are the chickens?
They're tiny. They're real tiny. Like, you could probably fit one in a coffee cup.
They're as big as my fist. But they're new. Like,
Yeah.
the weird, like... So the mom is, like, oddly, like, going after Henry, which is just kind of creepy and strange, because Grandma's in the corner watching them. It's just weird.
Yeah.
Dad is completely oblivious to everything in the world. He's just like, hey, we got new chickens. It's like, okay. And they go, like, sit down at the table, and they're eating dinner, and the chickens start moving, and you're like, oh, gosh, that's really weird. And then the chickens start bleeding, and you're like, oh, gosh. And then the mom's sitting there like, ah, la, 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 like, tripping out, and you're like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
What is this movie?
Yeah, the feeling you're feeling right now at this point watching the movie, you know, hold on to that because it's not going to go anywhere.
No, like it's such a weird first scene. And at the end of it, like, the mom's like, did you sleep with her? And he's like, what? Like, did you sleep with her? And he's like, yeah, what? You know? It's like, there's a baby. It's in the hospital. And then, like, you cut from that dinner scene to the scene of the two of them in Henry's apartment.
Yeah.
And you see, like, Henry's coming home, and he sees the lady across the hall. She'll come in handy later. He goes home, and he goes to the place where there is his girlfriend, wife, they don't really say, and the baby. And the baby looks like a horse fetus. And
Sort
I don't
of
mean
like a velociraptor, maybe.
like a velociraptor. And you only see, like, head and neck, and then the rest of it is bundled up.
Like, it's just got this elongated face that kind of like velociraptor horse face.
And don't worry if we're being unkind to the baby. Trust me.
Yeah.
But, like, it's so creepy because it's like, where did this baby come from? Why is this baby disfigured? What is wrong with this baby? And the whole time you're like, what's... Like, it's a film where the whole time you're like, this is weird and what's going on? And you're screaming that at the television while you're watching this.
Yes.
And it doesn't get easier. Like, you keep seeing this.
No, it just keeps getting worse. And you don't... And you keep thinking, like, okay, this has to be, like, the apex of weirdness, and then the movie's like, hold my beer.
Like, okay, so his girlfriend wife screams at the baby like, shut up, because it keeps crying while they're trying to fall asleep. And while we're watching it, Pete's mom from the side says, don't you yell at that baby.
Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking of another part. So
no. She's like, don't you scream at that baby, you blank. And we're like, no, it's fine. She's okay.
Yeah.
So, like, she screams at the baby and, like, she can't stand the crying anymore and leaves. And that's kind of the theme of the movie is fatherhood, if you could say the movie has a theme. And every so often, you go back to the man in the center of the earth with the horrible disfigurements pulling on levers.
Yeah.
That don't do anything. Henry ends up sleeping with, I don't know if this is before the girlfriend leaves or after, but he ends up sleeping with the lady across the hall. And you discover this because it's the two of them making out, like, shirtless, waist deep inside of a pool of milk, and the pool of milk is sitting on a bed.
Yeah.
And
I should point out there's no music accompanying this either. You just hear bodies.
Yeah. And they're slowly spinning and turning, and they're slowly sinking into this milk, and I don't know how he did it. But, like, best thing I can guess is, like, no, but you couldn't even do that. I have no idea how he did this.
Would it be like a lazy Susan at the bottom of the thing, and then they just, like, try and sink into it themselves? Like, just try and lower their bodies, maybe?
But it's so smooth. Like, I don't know, because they go all the way down. They go, like, all the way, like, to their heads.
Yeah.
And even, like, with his turbo hair, like, even that's underneath. So that's strange.
Yeah.
And then Henry goes across the hall, and he sees the lady in the radiator. And the lady in the radiator is literally the woman that lives inside the radiator next to his bed.
Yep.
The lady in the radiator lives on a stage. This is where, like, the miniatures work comes in.
Yep.
And the lady in the radiator has what looks like balls, like popcorn balls, glued to her cheeks.
It's like... It's like an almost comically advanced stage of mumps.
Like, ridiculously so. Like, put your fists against your cheeks. That's how big this woman's cheeks are. And it's never mentioned. It's just a weird thing she has in her head. And she's, like, giggling and laughing and smiling. And Henry's like, because this is, like, his, like, version of drugs. Like, this is his escapism.
Yeah.
And the baby gets sick.
Something.
Because the baby's driving him nuts.
Yeah.
Because it just keeps crying the whole movie. And, like, at one point he actually, like... Yeah, it's weird. But, there's another scene with the lady across the hall where she's, like, with another man, and Henry has to, like, that strangeness. There's another scene with the lady in the radiator where she's dancing on the stage, singing the one song in the movie, which is In Heaven Everything Is Fine.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because it's being sung by the moon-cheeked woman.
Yeah.
They're dropping... Whole thing's in black and white, by the way.
Yeah.
Just to add that, like, when was this made feel to it. While sperm are dropping, or what I believe to be sperm...
They're shaped like sperm.
They're shaped like sperm, are dropping from the ceiling. And she's like...
They're shaped like giant sperm, so imagine like a sperm head.
The size of my fist.
Basically, yeah. So these things are like the size of squirrels.
Yeah. And she's like giggling and dancing around, and every time she gets up to one, just... and then steps on it. And it, like, it spits white goo out everywhere.
Like, just, like, tapioca, just...
And we're like, what's going on here? And the song just keeps going. It's like, it's the full song. It's like, what the heck's going on here? And then you go back to, like, Henry's real life, and the baby's sick again, and he's, like, slowly losing his mind, and the baby starts laughing at him.
And it's doing this cackle where it knows it's laughing at him, because it's just going, like...
So Henry, like, tries to take the bandages off the baby. It doesn't work. He takes a pair of scissors. He, like, cuts open the bandages only to reveal that was the baby's skin. That, like, on the inside you could see all the, like, the guts and the hearts and, like, the baby's crying all over again. Just like, blah, 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 and there's blood everywhere. But Henry's too far gone, and he takes the scissors, and this baby that's been laughing at him and driving him insane this whole movie takes a pair of scissors and just keeps stabbing it in the heart. There's blood going everywhere. Just, duh, 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 duh. And then...
What do we hear from the kitchen, Bart?
Do you guys want some chips and salsa?
No!
Gosh, why? No! Oh! It is, and Pete's mom.
My mom
is like,
had no
"What
way
happened?"
of knowing what we were seeing.
No!
All she did was be like a very, very nice host and offer some snacks to be greeted with both of us shouting no at the same time.
At the top of our lungs.
Oh,
So,
my
like,
God.
So that's
was,
just like.
that was one of the most perfect moments.
But it's not like, I can't remember if this happens before or after he stabs the baby. But there's a scene where he like goes to this because when he's stabbing the baby, you get all these flickers of like the giant baby head that's still like in his life and is like looming, and like he can't get rid of it. And then he like cuts to him on the stage with like the mumps lady.
Yeah.
And he's just watching everything go on, and his head like falls off and rolls across the floor, and out of his neck pops up the baby raptor head. and then his head falls through the floor, if I remember this right, falls through the floor onto like the middle of a busy street. And then a kid grabs his head.
Well, I don't think it was a busy street. I think it was like vacant. It was very quiet, I think.
Yeah, it was like a middle of an empty street. The kid like rides his bike up, grabs the head like it's gold that fell from the sky, and rides his bike away to a pencil factory. And then at the pencil factory, he negotiates with the factory owner what the price of the erasers that you're going to make out of this detached head is going to be, because it's very important to establish what the price is before you actually give them the goods. This is a good lesson from this movie that we have to take away.
It's very important, because if he lowballs you, you go ahead and find yourself another pencil factory.
That'll make it out of a guy's head. So they make erasers out of the guy's head, and that's where the name of the movie comes from. The like man at the center of the earth, his like when Henry's stabbing the baby, all the equipment's just like exploding and sparking, and like he catches fire and dies. And the whole like world that we just saw get built up in front of us just gets torn down. Everything's dead, everything's awful and just terrible. And then credits roll. And I don't care about that.
And then you're just stuck there on the couch trying to make sense of what was just thrown at you.
It is, and you can say what you want. Like, it is the weird film. Like, I used to have a t-shirt of Eraserhead, and people who had seen it would stop me and go like, dude, how many times have you watched this movie? Because this movie's amazing. Like, shout outs to you, dude, for having an Eraserhead shirt. Because it's Eraserhead. But
I spent the rest of my life trying to forget that movie.
It's not that it's weird. It's that it's weird and it sticks with you.
Yeah.
Because I remember a good chunk of that film. I remember the weird creepiness. Because you were like freaking out when he's stabbing the baby. Because it got you on an emotional level. Even though it really shouldn't have, because there's nothing there. It's just random stuff.
Yeah.
But it gets you. It's a good movie that even though it doesn't have to make sense, if it makes you feel an emotion, it got you. And that's what matters. And that's all I have to say about Eraserhead. I think that's all you can say about Eraserhead. So let's wrap this up. All right, Pete. So, Evil Dead. What do you love about Evil Dead?
I loved how they really stuck to their guns when it came to just scaring the audience by keeping their eyes on something horrifying. It had a very don't look away feel to it.
Yeah. What do you hate about Evil Dead?
What do I hate about Evil Dead? I guess the pacing felt a little weird, at least in the original, where the plot really starts to pick up and people start becoming these demon-possessed corpses, but then for like 10 minutes, almost nothing will happen. And he's just surrounded by these like demon-possessed corpse things, and one's under the one's in the cellar just shouting at him, the other is just sitting in a corner laughing at him. One is like his other guy friend who's just kind of dead, like he hasn't gone all demon possessed corpse yet.
Yeah.
But like almost nothing will happen, and I feel like that part was supposed to like let the viewer catch their breath a little bit. Maybe I'm just too desensitized where it's like I see something terrible happen, I'm like, all right, next, let's keep it going. Let's keep this freaking horror train rolling.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It felt a little weird.
Okay, and who is Evil Dead a good fit for?
Well, it's definitely not good for somebody who's trying to use, like, horror movies in that cliched first date sort of like, oh, she'll get scared and cuddle up next to me and everything.
She'll get scared and not want to be touched.
I can only see this backfiring, because if this plan of this imaginary person I'm thinking of would work, then she'll eventually want to have sex after having seen this movie. You do not want to have sex with somebody who gets turned on by this movie.
Yeah.
Don't stick your dick in crazy, guys.
Always good. See, okay, I thought that was like a quote from a movie. It's not. It's just like a phrase that's just been kicking around.
That's awesome.
This is good advice.
So I would say that if you're into the whole body horror, like if you want something that feels like a classic horror, go with Evil Dead.
That's good stuff.
All right. So Bart, favorite thing about Eraserhead?
I remember everything. I remember everything. It got you. Like, it's what I was saying earlier. It's just the fact that it just got you and it stuck with you.
Yeah.
Even though we watched it 90 minutes, like, what, 5 years ago?
10 years ago.
Yeah.
We were
both
in high school.
No, I was out of high school.
Were we?
Yeah.
See, this movie's fucked me up so much, my sense of time is all messed up now. So, least favorite thing?
Gosh, what do I even say for this? Maybe the man in the center of the earth. Like, he was to show, like, the slow decline of everything, but he didn't do anything. He was just there. And I know that adds to the weirdness, but, like, the chickens, there was a reason for the chickens. The mom acting, like, weird and, like, turned on by Henry, there's a purpose to this.
Yeah. Although David Lynch's MO is just throwing you off, basically.
Yeah.
All right. And who is Eraserhead a good fit for?
I would say Eraserhead is for those years when you're watching a lot of not when you're watching a lot of movies. That's like 20s. Like, get this while you're still in high school, while you're at home, if you can, because it's just so weird. Okay, Henry. Sorry, I just had to make sure I wasn't getting his name wrong for like 30 minutes. So yeah, Eraserhead, Evil Dead, horror movies. It's probably the strangest episode we're ever gonna do.
Weirdest episode so far.
Yeah, definitely. So all right, let's wrap up. Thank you to OK Go for the use of their song. Here it goes again off the album Oh No. You know them, you don't know us. Pete, you know what you're gonna do next week for F?
I'm gonna do Fables.
Oh, that's right. I still gotta think of mine, but I'll probably come up with something okay. Not amazing, but okay. All right. So thanks, folks, for listening, and see you next time.
All right, and bye, Sponch.
Bye, Sponch.